FanExpo! Are y'all ready? No, I know y'all can do better than that. I know y'all can do better than that. Are y'all ready? We're going to try harder than that. Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for Mr. Kellen Lutz! Yes, yes. The love. She's gonna cry later, y'all know that, right? She's Now, listen, the whiteboards are for later. You can hold on to them for now if you want to, but they're for later. We're gonna chop it up and get into some things.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I love y'all.
Absolutely. So, you guys are a integral part of a beautiful franchise that has taken the world by storm and has not let go for a good while. When you first got involved with this project, were you fans of the book series?
I think back then it was a smaller following, so
little bit.
I remember my agents told us, do you want to do a vampire movie? I said no. Because I was thinking like blood and guts and like a cave and like bats. And back then there was like really good vampire movies, and then they would go through like a bunch of bad vampire movies.
Right,
we were in the bad vampire movie stages. So I was like, nah. And they said, well, it's based on a book, has a small following. It's called Twilight. I was like, okay. And they said Catherine Hardwicke's directing, and I said, oh, I love Catherine. And I said, when's the audition? And they said, tomorrow.
Wow.
Okay, well, do you have a script? And they said, no. But the book is out? Yeah. All right, I'll go get the book, set up the meeting. I went out, got the book, and I was just gonna cut to like my part. It was like, Carlisle, page 40. No, it's Carlisle. And then I started reading it, and then I was like, this is actually pretty good. So I went back to the beginning, I just read the whole book, sucked me in. I was up till like 2 o'clock in the morning. Then I went to the audition, red-eyed, looking very pale.
It was perfect. All you needed was a little glitter. You would have been right on like, yeah, he needs this part.
Yeah.
I like it. Tell him about you.
What was the question again? I was so deep in the story.
It was a good one. It was a good one. Were you a fan of this series at all? Were you
I didn't know about it. I mean, when the audition came up, I was doing Generation Kill in Africa, and I was away from my family for 7 months, and I just wanted to take a break. And so my team sent me the audition for Edward, and so I read the sides, and I'm like, he's too depressing. I've been out here in Africa shooting guns and seen a lot of death and destruction. I want to do like a rom-com or something happy. And so I passed, because I'm like, Edward, he's just, I didn't get him. And then I came back to the States, and they're like, hey, remember that Twilight movie? There's a role for Emmett. And so they sent me, and there's like 2 lines in the audition, right? Because Emmett doesn't say much, but what he says is great. And so I was like, okay, this is easy. My manager was like, just trust me, this is gonna be huge. And I didn't read the script, didn't know it was a book series, just auditioned. And when I got it though, Ashley was like, hey, did you read the books? I'm like, huh? Like during the headlines, she's like, there's books, so I read them. Fell in love with my character, fell in love with the book franchise. It was such an easy read, I loved the story. Didn't love the sparkle, didn't love that we didn't have fangs, because I love I love Blade.
Right?
So it was like, that was the cool vampire stuff for me. Or Daybreak.
Yeah, Daybreak was on.
And so I was a little confused, even when I got to set. Peter Jackson had to help me with the contacts.
He had a hard time with the contacts, and the first one was a smaller budget, so we usually have like a technician who puts them in, but we didn't have that. We had the makeup lady, so it was me and Jackson would hold Kellen down in the makeup chair while he squirmed, had my elbow on his forehead. You can do this, look up. And then she would slide them in, and it was terrible because they were pretty thick too. Back then, it was like putting hubcaps in your eyes.
And then we didn't have like, I mean, I've done fake fangs, right? Like, And so they're like, all right, go to set. I think the first scene was the baseball scenes. And
No one here likes that scene. No one on this side likes that scene.
it was so much fun, but I was like, guys, are you forgetting something? And they're like, no, you don't sparkle in the baseball scene. There's, you know, and I'm like, no, guys, like, we aren't doing things, and there's no, I'm like, really? You aren't gonna change the book at all? Just, you know, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. So, fell in love with the franchise,
Gotcha.
the books, and I love Midnight Sun. Have you guys read that one yet?
Of course.
There's a lot more funny Emmett and Edward dialogue in there, which I love.
I haven't read Midnight Sun because it's told from Edward's point of view. And I feel like as a dad, it's very invasive, like it's going through his diary. And as a dad, I don't want to know what my kids are thinking about me.
But as a brother, you gotta get those little, what can I make fun of him of now?
Now, since you brought up the baseball scene, how much baseball did you guys actually get to play that they like didn't show in the movie? Was it just
we rehearsed for a whole week, which is
wow.
a lot of fun. So we were doing indoor baseball because it was raining a lot, and we shot in Portland. So for a whole week we were doing, just playing baseball, hanging out, and
That's awesome.
really becoming like a family. I used to play baseball growing up, so it was fun to help Nikki and help Ashley a little bit because they had to play baseball. And Rob, and I'm like, Rob, okay, you got to bend your knees. He'd be like, no, bend over. All right, forget it. But he looked great.
Now, one of the things I think is super important to understand is that Twilight as a franchise has changed pop culture in a huge way, specifically when it comes to Comic-Cons. Are you guys aware that Twilight changed like Comic-Con International structure for Hall H? Because of you can no longer just walk into Hall H. People have to wait like days in advance in order to get tickets to go to that, and it started because of Twilight.
Wow.
Yes, your impact was that huge.
Because on our side, we rarely get to go up, to the other side of it. So we're always like backstage somewhere, and then we come out, and very rarely do we even get to especially in San Diego Comic Con, we were always like the animals at the zoo, kept behind. But some celebrities actually put on a mask and they go out, and I've never tried that, but maybe I'll try.
You should definitely try that.
I'm gonna put on an Emmett mask.
Yes. No one would know. They go like, wait, is that? I don't know. But to that end, at what point did you guys realize how rabid this fan base was for what you guys were producing?
Before.
I mean that in a sweet way. In a sweet way.
No, I mean, it kind of grew over time. If it was as big as it was, I think Brad Pitt would have played Carlisle Cullen. But
Not as good as you, though.
no, not as good as me. I think you would have been pretty good. But I mean, when we got the books, I remember, we did the movie, and after the movie was over, I went up, took my family on vacation, and I was like, I need to be in the sun because I haven't been in the sun for a long time. And so I was in Hawaii, and I was like, there was a little dock that you could swim out, and I was kind of swam out there, and was by myself on this dock, and these two 50-year-old girls swam out, and I said, are you playing Carlisle Cullen? And I was like, huh? The movie wasn't even out yet. I was like, how do you know? It was like, oh no, we read the books and we're fans. And so that was like an inkling of okay, I think this book is actually growing. And then when I got on the beach, everybody on the beach was reading the books.
Wow.
I was like walking down the beach, I was like, that's kind of weird. And then when the movie came out, I was excited because, I mean, I grew up, watching Rocky, and Rocky, if there was a line around the block, you were like, wow, that's a big movie. And this movie, people were tenting out for days. And I was like, that's so wonderful. I love when movies bring people together. It's like families, and it was such a rabid fan base for it. And so from the first movie, because of the books, there was such a big audience. But it was scary too because they hadn't seen the movie. So I was like, oh no, if they don't like this movie, they're gonna come after us with pitchforks, and it's gonna be this happy crowd is gonna become an angry mob. So it was very nerve-wracking. But thankfully, you guys liked it, and here we are.
Absolutely. Colin, what about you?
What's up?
When did you realize?
I mean, definitely piggybacking off when people were camping out a week before the premiere, and that made the news. And my dad is a fanatic with watching just the news. I'm like, how can you just leave the news on all day? But he told me, and he showed me videos, and I'm like, wow. But I think when Twilight fans found our hotel rooms in the first movie, I mean, I'm a people person, so it's kind of, they brought gifts, they brought food, and I was like, hey Peter, did someone come to your door and bring you beef jerky and pretzels and games?
Yeah, I had to have a talk with Kelly. I was like, Kelly, you can't let people into your hotel room. It's not a good thing.
I thought they worked there. So I'm like, yeah, come on in. And so
I know they have candy, but don't let them into your hotel room.
it tricked me. But then afterwards I was like, oh, thank you guys so much. And it clicked in my head about 3/4 into the hang session, which was probably 15 minutes, that they didn't work there.
Nope.
They didn't have uniforms, name tags. They had this like, they were hungry look in their eyes. And I quickly wrapped it up and I called Peter and he's like, never again, Kelly, never again. So that was pretty fun, and also when I realized we were part of something big.
How fast did you change your room number?
No, I tweeted it. I was like, hey, leave at the door though.
Yes, yeah.
I'll tell you a funny story. So when we did the Twilight movies, the first one, nobody really knew what we were making. So it was like, we could go out and we would go to like this open night mic and Rob would play guitar and there'd be like nobody in the bar but us. And the cast and like Rob singing. And it was like, this is kind of sweet, you know, I wonder if I'll ever see this cast again. Kind of, you don't know if we're gonna get a second movie out of it. But you hope that there's enough people watch it that you get to do another movie. And then the first movie came out and it snowballed into something exciting. And then the second movie came out. And then by the third movie, like we couldn't go out.
Right.
So it became like if we went out, it was like paparazzi and a lot of, so we would stay in and we would go to, we would play board games in our hotel rooms. And so one night, Kellen brought the Twilight game, and we played that. And I thought I was like a shoo-in to win the game because as the dad of the family, I made it a point to know everybody's storyline. I was like, you got bit on a Saturday, it was raining out, and it was 1922, I knew 4 p.m., so I knew everything. And then I lost. And the reason I lost is because I didn't know any of the high school kids' names. And also Ashley Green won, I think she cheated. She used her like psychic powers, her future powers to win that game. But anyway, so she won. And then by the 4th and 5th movies, we had moved to Canada.
Right.
And then it became hard to even get in touch with each other. So I remember I got to the hotel and the production said, hey, we have these Canadian phones for you. Because back then it was like, you know, they would charge you so much money for your American phones. Oh, thanks. And so they got the phone and we checked into the hotel. And Kellen said, do you want to grab a bite? And I said, yeah, let's go. We'll go grab a bite to eat. I'll call you in like 15, 20 minutes and we'll figure it out. So then I got to my room. I realized, oh, I don't have his cell phone. We've got new cell phones. So I went down to the lobby and I said, can I have Kellen Litz's room? And she looked at me and she goes, yeah, I'm not allowed to give that out.
Wow.
And I said, I don't usually do this, but you know who I am. Yeah, but we're not allowed to give out the room numbers. I said, but I want to go to lunch with him. I can't get in touch with him. She said, sorry, I might get fired if I give the room. So I couldn't even get it.
Wow.
We went from like hanging out at this bar to like I can't even go to lunch with my friend. And then I was just sitting in the lobby for an hour, and then Kellen came down. He's like, where were you? I was like, they won't let me talk to you. I think Kellen told him, if he calls me, do not
Here. That's real. Okay, so we want to get to know some more behind the scenes stuff. So we've got these cool whiteboards, and what you guys are supposed to do is answer as honestly as you choose. And you can either keep this between you two, or you can talk about other cast members who aren't here. But I've got a series of questions that we want to ask to see exactly what the real is for the behind the scenes. So
Can I call a friend?
Can you? I mean,
Phone a friend?
maybe depends on who the friend is. And can we listen to
Maybe
the
Jack said he's snowing somewhere.
There we go.
There's snow somewhere right now.
All right. So the first question: who forgot their lines the most?
Is that?
Rob did? Really?
I was gonna say Rob.
Okay. All right.
was gonna say.
Okay.
I didn't want to out him, so I'm glad you did. But
No
you know, to be
loyalties here,
fair,
no
he had the
loyalties.
most lines.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Gotcha. Now this one is super personal because there's going to be a follow-up story, we hope. Who was the biggest prankster on set? Okay. So what was the best prank that you pulled off, Peter?
I think it was to Maggie Grace. I called and said I was from production and said we didn't like her hair. We need to dye it and shave her head. And she was like, what? I said, you have to come to production right now. We're going for a new look. And she was very freaked out. And then I had to call back 10 minutes later and say, no, that was me.
Wait, no. Just joking. That's a good one. Who is most likely to laugh during a scene?
Okay, I'll go with that.
Rob again. Okay.
That's true. Yeah.
That's fair. Who was always snacking on set?
Okay, I got that.
What was the snack of choice?
Everything. Eggs.
Whatever the Twilight moms brought me. Mainly beef jerky and gummy bears.
I mean, that's how the eggs got into the movie, because he was walking around with eggs, and then Catherine was like, we should just put that in, because you're supposed to look like you're eating something in the cafeteria. So that's a true story. The eggs were Kellen's eggs.
Wow. All right. Now, acting, of course, is a craft. There's a lot of skill sets in it. Who was the most competitive about acting on set?
I don't know if it was competitive, because it's such a collaboration.
Okay.
But I think I was, because I was the dad,
Right.
like I made it a point to know everybody's stuff.
Gotcha.
Like a really like my character was 350 years old, and I like to do like character journals of like, you know, where they are before you meet them and where they might end up after you. There was a lot of filling in the blanks for 350 years. You know, if you can imagine, like, okay, well, what was going? And I did it all. Like I wish I kept that, but maybe I should put it out somewhere. But it was like I wanted to know what he saw, what made him who he was when you met him, and a lot of that information actually would serve me. You know, like stuff that you guys probably would know, subtle things, but like, I'll give you an example. So I imagined, and just when you're acting and you're filling in the blanks, you make it up as you go, and it's not right or wrong, because it's, you know, it's not in the books, so who's to say if it's right or wrong? So there was, you know, he got to America in the 1920s, and I imagined, well, that's maybe why he likes baseball, because it was very popular in the 1920s, and maybe, you know, he was in Chicago with Edward. Maybe he saw Babe Ruth play, and there's a famous scene, there's a famous moment where Babe Ruth points to center field, and he hits the baseball to center field exactly where he pointed. And so I told Catherine, I said, you know, it'd be funny if like he does it. Carlon does this all the time. He points to center field like Babe Ruth, because this is this thing that he saw back. And she even had Esme say a line which it got cut out. She was like, oh, not the Babe Ruth thing again. and with me pointing to center field, she created a whole camera movement where she started the camera at the point of my back and pushed into my face. So it's fun when you create something and then they build off of it, or another character builds off of it, and it becomes something else. Or the scarves weren't in the book, but I always imagined that he came from the 1800s, so he wore ascots and he was very gentlemanly, and maybe he carried that over throughout the years, and so there's a proper, you know, gentleman
That's awesome.
etiquette for him. And also I felt like maybe he was vulnerable around his neck, so maybe he liked to keep that, you know, neck not exposed. So these are things that I kind of worked in that you guys, you're like, oh, he wears a scarf. And meaningless for you, but for me, all those things get layered in to build who he was. And I have to do that work before. So, you know, when you fill in 350 years, what wars did he see? What devastation did he see? Oh, maybe that's why he wants to be a doctor, because he wants to like help humanity, to help him, stay as human as he could.
Right.
And those are just things that you just, do the work. And like I said, sometimes, it might not be as meaningful for you guys, but added up and together, hopefully it creates something.
Make some noise for that, Joe. That's awesome. All right, a couple more. Who is the best at doing their stunts?
I think Kellen's very,
I was going to ask
physical.
on the truck.
Jackson too. Jackson.
Okay, all right.
I would say Kellen Mosley and Jackson. I mean, we had a lot of when you do the vampire stuff,
Right.
It was you had to be on a treadmill that they put on the back of a pickup truck. This is how they filmed it. Didn't feel that safe. Don't try this at home. And then they would kind of secure you in, and you'd be running as fast, put as fast as you can on the treadmill while the truck's moving, and they'd be filming you from the side. And if you could imagine, you're doing that for an hour, And I would do it for 10 minutes, I'd be so winded, and Kellen's like, "This is great! This is so much fun!" And I'd be, "I hate you."
Who would last the longest on a desert island?
That's interesting.
On a desert or deserted?
I was going to say a desert one, but deserted, either way.
Well, is it just?
It's just you.
Just desert, no
It's
trees,
just you,
just
nothing fun.
I feel like Alice would make it really cute. She'd be like, "I'm just gonna put my palm trees over here, and hang some
Project that,
stuff."
project that,
Right? She'd be skipping through the sand, and this is so much fun.
Yeah, that's a great.
And it would be like, "I'm so hungry, I gotta eat a shark right now."
Give me
Probably be
dates.
meditating somewhere.
Okay, all right. Now, personal bias aside, since you read the books, potentially a fan, Team Edward or Team Jacob?
I mean,
Edward, brother.
yeah.
I mean, listen, you could have picked them just because. I totally get it. Do we have any Team Jacob fans in the room?
Team Edward fans?
Yeah, there used to be more Team Jacob.
There did. There were.
I think they're starting to dwindle. I gotta go with the family. The family is
Family's everything.
got a tight family.
I respect it. I respect it. Guys, I think it's time for you to ask a couple of questions. So I'm going to invite you to very carefully, quietly, safely make your way over to the microphones. We're going to go back and forth. Since you're there right now, we'll start with you. Hello, what's your name?
Hello, I'm Alexandra.
Hello, what's your question?
And since y'all did 5 movies, but each movie you got to work with a new director, and that's a really unique experience in a series of movies like that. Which director was your favorite to work with, or had the best experience, and why?
I mean, they were all so different. I have to go old school Catherine because it was just where it all began, and I always liked the bluish tints, the coldness of the first one. It was kind of fun. They kind of warmed it up in the second with the they went for New Moon, more warmer tone, and then it just became more kind of studioized. But the first one. The difference between the first one was this, Catherine's an independent filmmaker, so she had so much camera movement, and she kind of filmed it almost documentary style, right? So when you're filming, usually a big studio movie is more setups and stillness. So if I'm shooting a scene, it would be a wide angle, and then you pop in for 2 shots,
Right.
and then singles. And they're just cutting, from wide to singles to 2 shots to singles. And Catherine is more she'd come in on a wide, and then she'd run in, and she'd cut to and then swing over to you, and then you'd have a line, and then she'd swing over to somebody else. So it always kept the camera moving, which I felt really gave a lot of energy to the scenes. And also, as vampires, we're very still, right? So if you can imagine 8 people standing around talking, it's I have a line, you have a line, you have a line. And so when you're still and you're just cutting, it's cut. So it feels a little metronome, right? But if you're swinging the camera and then swinging your line, there's
There's a
energy,
flow.
flow, and I like that.
That's awesome.
So I'd have to say Catherine was.
Okay.
And she also set the tone to that first
Right.
one, and the music and the soundtrack for the first one was incredible. So everybody else was kind of okay, she set the tone, and they got their own tone, but it was they had a high bar to kind of match.
I like that. Tell them about you.
Yeah, definitely Catherine. Chris was great. but I barely got to work on that one. David Slade, I love his movies, so it was really cool to have a darker movie for Eclipse. But then Bill, I feel like Bill for Breaking Dawn, he like asked us so much about our characters and asked us so much about our personal journey as the actor playing them. So he did his homework on.
He had a lot on his plate too, Bill, because
Yeah.
he was doing 2 movies back to back because they were 1 book. So I just remember, you know, he had so many more cast members, right?
Yeah.
Because we had the Latori, we had the big battle sequence at the end, we had the Denali sisters. So like, and he was in charge of a lot.
Right.
Like I remember looking at Bill, he's got the world on his shoulders right now because he's closing up these books. I mean, you would go to the, you know, where hair and makeup, and there'd be like 10 trailers for all the actors and tents, and it was like a circus came to town. It was insane, especially during the battle sequence. You know, we shot that in Baton Rouge, by the way. Boudin. I gave it some good Boudin in Baton Rouge. And so they had it all. It was all indoors. Yeah. So it was a stadium, and it was all green screen, and they would fill it with this like paper. It was like paper. It was the snow, which was always in the air, and I would go home blowing my nose, and be like all this paper would be coming out of my nose. Like, is this healthy? Oh yeah, it's safe. Is it my lungs? I'll tell you a funny story. Sorry, I'm like taking over. So. It was an embarrassing story. So we have this big battle sequence, right? And the Cullens are on this side, and the bad guys are on that side. And so it's tough because we're shooting this scene for like 2 weeks because there's so many people.
Right.
And so you're sitting around most of the day. The camera's not on you. You're just saying off camera lines, but you get all suited up in case. Every day you're going through the process of getting suited. Now they're like, okay, it's your turn. And I've got like 2 lines. And so I say my 1 line, and then there's a line, and then your line over here, and your line over there, and just waiting for come back around. And so I say my line is, she's not an immortal, right? That's my line. It's been years. She's not an immortal. That's all I have to say. And now the pressure's on because there's like 100 of these new actors, and I've been in the movie for ages. And I have to shout this line out, she's not an immortal! And so it gets to me, here it comes. Camera's on, I've been waiting for 2 weeks to say this woman. And I go, she's immortal! I mean not! Immortal? She's immortal? She's an immortal! And everybody starts laughing. The whole stadium. I blew my 1 line.
You overhyped yourself. It happens. It happens.
Performance anxiety.
It was a dad move. That's
Yeah.
what it was. The greatest dad joke of all time. 350 years in the making. Good job. Hello.
Thank you.
My name's Isela. As a kid, when I was reading the books, the media was very divisive on whether it was something that little girls should be reading and should not be reading. How did you maneuver that while you were filming the books? Because at some point, it was cool to read Twilight, it was uncool to read Twilight, it was good, it was bad. How did you guys maneuver through that?
I don't know if I really judged it as much because my kids were younger. I mean, I had a 15-year-old. I thought it was appropriate for her at 15. If I had a 12-year-old or 11 or 10, I might have been like, wait a little bit. But I guess because I had a 15-year-old and her friends were into it, I didn't really view it as harshly. But as a dad, I probably would, you know, if they were a little younger, wait. I guess as a parent, like you have to set the bar. As an actor, like I make the material and then give it over to an audience, and so it's more about like what the parent is comfortable with.
Yeah. Smart. Kellen, do you want to throw in on that?
I couldn't hear it, so just like, how did we?
Yeah,
She answered it perfectly.
yeah,
I didn't have kids then.
How did you handle the material being appropriate or not appropriate for kids? But you didn't have kids at the time, so it was like.
Yeah, I had a sister, my one and only sister, and I was grateful for it because she was young, maybe she's probably 14 or 15, like starting to date. And so I was really grateful that she liked that book, it taught her to slow down when the world is ramping up, even more so nowadays with dating apps and stuff like that. It was cool in that sense. Because if you don't have parents who help you understand what dating is, then your child's gonna get it from another source. It was great having that book for her to be like, hey, this is, you know, how a guy should pursue you and also take it slow, and, you know. So yeah, it's cool. My wife still hasn't seen the movie, so you know, she's not into vampires. And I think having kids, if they want to read it, you know, I think it's just their maturity level, right? Girls, daughters, sons, like they mature at different levels, so it's a daily task to know and pray like what's the right time for certain things and everything in life.
Well said. Very well said. Thank you. Hello.
So, casting director was definitely pretty spot on. You guys, I feel like, really embody your characters. But say, you know, 10, 20 years from now, there's a Twilight revival or a little redo. Is there any other role you would like to try out in that case?
Wow. We'll still look young. We'll play Emmett, Carlisle, you know.
Absolutely.
We're ready. I mean, it's been 15 years, right? I could easily play Emmett, play
CGI.
See, this is CGI. Yeah, there you go. I mean, I know Midnight Sun's coming out, or they're going to try and do that, so hopefully we can do the voices for that. But if I couldn't play Emmett and he wasn't available for Carlisle, I'd love to take a stab at Carlisle for sure.
Can I play Charlie?
That's me. Come on.
There you go. There you go. Thank you. Hello.
Hello. I'm sorry if it's too loud.
It's all right. Can you get closer to the mic? There's a party going on somewhere.
Can you hear me?
A little better now. Yes.
Cool. So, first of all, love y'all. You guys are awesome. Two, since you guys read the books, do you guys think that your portrayal did the book justice?
Do you think that you did the best job you could have in bringing these characters to life?
I don't think I would have done anything different.
That's right.
Looking back, sometimes you look at your work and you're like, I would have played that differently. I would have done it. I feel like as an actor reading the books, I did as much as I could to portray Carlisle the way I saw, and I think that connected with a lot of the fans too. Even to like, you know, Carlisle's he's from England, right? And so I always imagined he lost his accent over years to fit into America. But you know, when you have an accent and it slips out sometimes, you know. So I always tried to put that in. If you go back and listen to the movies, like Carlisle's his registry of his voice, I made a little lower so it feels more calming, you know, and he's stiller. And there's a difference between being still and stiff, you know. So you have to have an inner life when you're doing. But his accent, like I wanted it to be like a proper kind of, not a slangy way of talking. But when he gets excited or when it's kind of like nervous, you could hear. I tried to slide it where you could hear his English accent a little bit more, you know, to the point where I was doing one scene in Twilight, as a scene towards the end, and Catherine came and said, "Are you doing an English accent?" And I was like, "Sometimes," which kind of confused her. But yeah, so those are like little, like I said before, little subtle moments that I would put in for things. And I mean, the only thing I wish they got better was the hair, the wigs. The first one, that was my hair and I dyed it, which I thought I liked. And then the second, third, fourth, fifth, we wore wigs. And we were always like, you know, not fun. And they always didn't look the best.
You were fabulous though. You made it work.
Thank you.
I got you. Thank you.